Public Act 100-0640 amends the Open Meetings Act to expressly authorize public bodies to meet remotely in certain circumstances without the otherwise required quorum present at the meeting place. This law requires that the head of the public body determine that an in-person meeting is not practical or prudent because of a disaster. So Andrew, as the meeting chair, I'll ask you to make that determination once the meeting is called to order. At least one member of the public body or the chief administrative officer or the chief legal officer must be physically present at the meeting place unless it isn't feasible because of the disaster. So I'm here at the library this evening. We should do a roll call after the meeting is called to order, and all votes will be by roll call. As with all open meetings, we provide space for public comments in accordance with the law. For the purposes of this virtual meeting, we've asked for the public to submit their comments via email or voice message, and I will read them aloud at the appropriate time. This meeting will be recorded and will be available on the library's website for 30 days and will be archived in our administrative offices thereafter. Over to you, Andrew.
Thank you, Michaela. I'd like to call this meeting of the Aurora Public Library District Board of Directors to order at 6:06 p.m. on December 16th, 2020. The Aurora Public Library District Board of Directors finds an in-person meeting is not practical or prudent at this time because of the ongoing public health emergency and believes it is in the library's best interest to hold a virtual meeting to perform our essential business. Melinda, would you please call the roll?
Dee Vasili.
Present.
Jeff Butler.
Here.
Joe Philippek.
Here.
Melinda Riddick. Here. John Savage. Absent. Eva Serrano.
Here.
Andrew Smith.
Here. Thank you, Melinda. All right. At this time, Michaela, are there any changes to the agenda?
There are no changes to the agenda.
Thank you. All right. Moving on to the next item on the agenda is the approval of the November 18th, 2020 meeting of the Board of Directors. At this time, are there any changes to the minutes? All right, I see that no changes are being advanced. May I have a motion and a second to approve the minutes of the November 18th, 2020 meeting of the Board of Directors?
This is Joe, so moved.
Second, this is Eva.
Thank you both. Melinda, please call the roll.
Dee Vasili.
Yes.
Jeff Butler.
Yes.
Joe Philippek.
Yes.
Melinda Riddick. Yes. John Savage. Absent. Eva Serrano.
Yes.
Andrew Smith.
Yes. All right, the minutes are approved. Next on the agenda is the Executive Director's Report. Michaela, the floor is yours.
Thank you. All right, tonight I'll keep it brief because we have a per capita grant requirement on the agenda and that's going to take a minute or two. So first thing, you all probably know that we closed Aurora Road grants for a couple of days earlier this month so that we could reconfigure the lobby a little bit for better social distancing. So after a few months of providing in-person services there, it was really apparent that we needed to do a little rearranging. People were clumping up and having to go to multiple desks and things like that. So the new layout really seems to be helping, and our circulation managers are working with Heather and Tom to fully automate the library card renewal process. And that's where a lot of the person-to-person interaction happens these days. So that will make it easier for customers to renew their library cards in COVID times or not, and that's always a good thing. So it'll be most visible at Eola Road and it will be most beneficial there because it's our busiest location, but it'll benefit all of our customers at all of our locations. Second thing is, I hope you've all noticed our holiday celebrations in many lands display in the windows at Santori on the River Street side, visible from the street. We had pictures of the holiday trees over many years. And so we have them enlarged and posted on those windows. It's just a little bit of holiday cheer for downtown and preserving a really beloved tradition. So finally, I'd like to introduce to you Mary Myers, who will be our new finance director upon Kathy's retirement on January 15th, 2021. Mary is with us. I just heard from her that Her video and microphone aren't working, but she's here and you can see her little name in the square. So
I'm Mary.
Mary comes to us with a wealth of experience in public, private, not-for-profit accounting, and she's dived right in. She's spending part of her working days with Kathy as she wraps up her previous job. So I'm looking forward to working with Mary, and I know she's going to be great for this library. And that's all I have for you this evening.
All right. Thank you very much, Michaela. All right. Moving on to public comments. At this time, are there any public comments?
There are no public comments.
All right. Thank you. All right. Heading on to new business. Got to approve the bills for this November and December. Are there any questions, Kathy? Here in one of the last times we'll get to ask such a wonderful question of you. Are there currently any questions on the bills?
We did not receive any questions this month.
Oh, wow, Jeff, you took it easy on her last month.
Easy.
Oh, man. Well,
It's my Christmas present.
Thank you.
wonderful. All right. All right. May I have a motion and a second to approve the monthly bills in the amount of $715,366.53.
D. Basili, so moved. I mean, I'll make a motion.
Second, Jeff.
Thank you both. Melinda, please call the roll.
Steve Vasili,
Yes.
Jeff Butler,
Yes.
Joe Philippette,
Yes.
Melinda Riddick, yes, John Savage, absent, Eva Serrano,
Yes.
Andrew Smith.
Yes. Thank you. Motion carries and the bills are approved for November/December. All right. Next is the per capita grant requirement, and Mr. Philippek is going to introduce.
Yes, and Michaela mentioned a minute or two. I actually had an hour or two planned, so maybe I'll try to meet you in the middle. No, I'm kidding. Of course. I will try to share my screen here. I just have a few slides. You guys let me know if you can see that.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes? Okay, cool. All right. So yeah, so this month we are, for the per capita grant requirement, we are looking at chapter 8 of Serving Our Public 4.0 Standards for Illinois Public Libraries, which is focused on resource sharing. And I want to thank Michaela, first of all, for giving me what I think is the shortest chapter in this publication, coming in at, I believe, 2 pages, which is in your packet. But it wouldn't be fun if I just read it to you. So I'm just going to give a little bit of an overview. Aurora, as we know, I think has a very robust collection that supports our users, but we're also connected with libraries across the state as part of a regional library system that works together to support the sharing of resources. And this allows libraries to throughout the system to provide services that really no library would be able to offer on its own. So it is very much, we would consider a win-win being part of this kind of ecosystem of libraries. Let me move on here. So this is just so you could see what in the state of Illinois, when we talk about resource sharing, there are 3 library systems, and this is since 2011. You have Chicago Public Library, which is its own library system. You see Rails, which occupies kind of the northern part of the state, and then Illinois Heartland Library System downstate. We, of course, are members of Rails, reaching across Illinois library system. We do not pay to be members of Rails. Funding for all 3 library systems comes through the Illinois State Library and the Secretary of State's office from revenue that is appropriated by the Illinois General Assembly. So the answer to the trivia question, who is the state librarian of our state of Illinois? The answer is Jesse White from the Secretary of State's office. I think a lot of people don't realize that. Library systems do a number of things to support libraries across the state: collaborative ebook initiatives, continuing education, group purchasing, but perhaps the most significant service that systems offer is delivery. And this is what facilitates the sharing of all those materials across libraries and across our state. Just to give you an idea of the scope, in the last full year that there wasn't a pandemic, there were about over 9 million items moved across the state through this kind of system of resource sharing. So that just gives you an idea of the kind of volume that we're talking about. Just quickly, this gives you a sense of what our system membership looks like in terms of the number of libraries. And I think the most important thing to note here is that we're not just talking about public libraries. There's academic, school, and special libraries that make up our system. And special libraries, if you're not familiar with that, we're talking about corporate libraries, government libraries, law libraries, medical libraries, etc. But those are the numbers when we talk about our system and the members therein. So when we get to resource sharing and what sort of constitutes the benefits of it and our responsibilities as a member of a regional library system around resource sharing, I think it comes into three primary categories. The first of which is interlibrary loan, which is, of course, the process and practice, I guess, of requesting items and also providing them to other libraries. It provides our users with the ability to borrow an item that maybe is not in our collection, and then we reciprocate when perhaps a patron from another library wants an item that we have that their home library does not. And Aurora uses, I think, among other things, a sort of even broader catalog referred to as WorldCat, that is basically a catalog of something like 18,000 libraries across the country, and indeed in even other countries. And if you are curious, if you go to worldcat.org, you can actually see what that catalog looks like. That includes items from all these libraries, and is a way for us to kind of borrow those sort of materials. Reciprocal borrowing here is somewhat related concept, but it refers to the right of a person who holds a valid card at their library that's part of this regional library system of rails to be able to borrow material on site from another library. So while interlibrary loan involves the delivery of materials, reciprocal borrowing means that if you want to go, if our patron wants to go with their Aurora library card to another library that's in the system, they are able to do that and use it to check out materials. So a couple months ago, there was a book I was looking for. We did not have a copy, but the Oswego Public Library, Montgomery branch, which is just 10 minutes from where I live, had a copy. So I was able to go in with my Aurora card and check out the book from there. And then reciprocal access is basically just how the resources of member libraries are made available to all library patrons in the system. And in practice, it refers to the fact that we don't ask when somebody approaches a reference desk, we don't ask for their library card. When someone's doing research in the library, perhaps looking at our local history collection, we're not looking at their library card. When they're using the Wi-Fi, same thing. So there are these services that we open up to not just our own users, subject to, of course, certain restrictions that maybe the board places on materials that we want to limit to our own patrons and our own tax-supported users. So those are kind of what I would consider the three most significant sort of tiers of resource sharing. And then finally, just additional member responsibilities, basically having awareness of the things that Rails and the State Library and other organizations like ILA, and that's why occasionally Michaela and other staff during board meetings might give us an update on the various offerings they have. There is an interlibrary loan code that members that use that system have to abide by. So an example might be in a board packet, you might see an expenditure of, say, $20 to a library, say St. Charles Library or Downers Grove. One of the reasons might be that one of our patrons borrowed a book from that library, lost it. The onus is on the home library of that patron to compensate the library. And then we basically try to get the money then from our patron who perhaps lost that book through interlibrary loan. That's just kind of one example of interlibrary loan code that outlines those responsibilities. And just the fact that administrators, staff, library board members participate at various levels across our system. So Michaela and other staff at Aurora, I know, will participate in committees, perhaps through ILA or through Rails. Obviously, I take care of board involvement by being part of the Illinois Library Association and my involvement and obviously employment with Rails, and but just a general obligation to be part of this library community in Rails. And that final bullet point is just to say that a lot of the obligations that we're talking about here and across serving our public, a lot of these do tie into the grants that we may seek from the state library, and indeed one of those being the per capita grant that, that's the reason why we're having these conversations and sort of monthly review of serving our public. So that is it in a nutshell. Happy to answer any questions or kick them to Michaela if they're hard.
Hey, Joe, I had a really dumb question.
I love it already. Go for it.
Why are the two systems divided? Why are some counties in different systems in the center of the state? Like that?
So that goes back. So there used to be 9 regional library systems. Aurora would have been part of DuPage library system, I believe.
Okay.
Then around 2010, when there were severe funding cuts, they merged. And I was not in those conversations, but I know there was a lot of, it was before I got involved with system work in libraries. So my only understanding is it was the process of drawing this line was very controversial and painful in terms of how and it has to do with delivery routes and I think a lot of other things and just politics like everything else. So I don't have the perfect answer to that. I just know it would have been part of those committees that were established in 2010-11 that made this division when the two systems, Rails and Heartland, were formed. But yeah, it is a little funky the way you look at it.
Yeah, right there. I'm trying to figure out, that's kind of my home territory right there. And I'm trying to figure out which towns are on which side of that line, and I'll have to go look. So.
And Michaela, I don't know if you were Hinsdale then, or if you remember anything. I mean, I was like a circulation clerk back there, and it was all back, I don't remember.
Yeah, I remember a little bit of discussion about, there are these things in Illinois called LSAPs. So it's it's a consortium, it's a shared catalog. You guys have heard about SWAN, for instance. Some of our neighbors belong to SWAN. And I think that membership in those help determine some of the boundaries.
Okay.
But yeah, I remember it being very political, very painful. And it was just a tough time. You guys remember the Great Recession, all of us do. It was lots to be unhappy about, and this was one part of it, so.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, you bet.
All right. Thank you very much, Joe. Next, Michaela, I'm just going to have you jump in on this next one for Kathy.
All right. So I mentioned earlier, and you guys all know already, that Kathy Fennell is retiring effective January 15th, 2021. This will be her last board meeting with us. So you have in your packets a resolution honoring her, and I will ask that you approve it this evening. I know I can speak for all of us on staff when I say that Kathy will be missed. We will never know how much she's done for us until she's not here to do it. So Kathy, with her customary modesty, has asked for us to not make any fuss. But we're not going to do that. So I would be happy to read the resolution aloud, or you can, Andrew, if you like. If anyone has anything that they would like to say to Kathy, and maybe Kathy has a few words also. So,
Michaela, I'll have you read it aloud, but before then, I'll just say I don't know how many years it's been, Kathy, that, well, we haven't always been seated this way. In the past, maybe you were once across the way from me, and then I was to the side of you. But I've always appreciated your professionalism. And even though questions sometimes were difficult and they might have involved a $20 item of a $25,000 item, I was always impressed that you had the smallest details. So again, whether it's like Joe said, a $20 book that was taken from another library and destroyed, you would say, okay, yes, the answer to that is this. Or well, I don't know that you're a mechanic. I think you could pass for one because your explanations regarding our systems, you'd say, we have 3 coolers that needed new lines and valves and this and that. And I didn't know what you were talking about, but you came across very, very confident at. So I just appreciate it. Mary's gonna have some big shoes to fill. You've done a wonderful job. And I don't believe you're actually retiring. I don't see you doing that. You're gonna have to keep yourself very occupied. But congratulations. I hope you enjoy the next chapter of your career. So thank you, Kathy, for everything that you've done.
Thank you.
I will just piggyback on that and say that, library board has several responsibilities. Perhaps one of the largest is our fiduciary responsibility. But in practice, when you have a volunteer board that meets once a month that have jobs, and you have to depend on the expertise of the staff and their ability to explain things in a way that's going to make sense, so that we can make informed strategic decisions. And I think in my time on the board, Kathy, you have always done that for us. So it's a thank you to the board, but then also, of course, the community of Aurora and our citizens. And I hope that as you step away, when you look back at your career that has involved the Santori building and everything involved with making that happen, and obviously everything with moving this library to a district, you should feel, I hope, a lot of pride because it is deserved. So best to you and thank you for everything.
Thank you, Joe.
Kathy, are you the only person that got a smaller office when you moved to Santori?
Yes, I was, but since then I've moved over a door.
Okay.
So I have a larger office.
At one
And now
point,
Miriam has a small office, but
okay. At one point, Kathy owned the former boardroom in the old library and had all of the information for the entire library surrounding her. And so she moved into that space and you knew where every detail and everything was for the entire library, and you continue to do that. And it's been my pleasure to work with you over all these years. And I've asked you many, many dumb questions, and I appreciate not rolling your eyes as you quickly answer the question. So thank you. And enjoy your retirement.
thank you, Jeff.
Thank you. Enjoy your retirement, Kathy. We applaud you, okay? Thank you. Thank you for everything.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy.
Thank
You're
you,
welcome.
Kathy.
Did you want me to respond now or later?
Go ahead, Kathy. It's up to you, of course.
Okay. Well, thank you all. I'm a bit overwhelmed by all the attention. I want to thank you, board members and the administration, for the opportunities and for advancement that I've had over the years at the library. I hope that my contributions have made a positive impact and that I'm leaving the library in a better spot than when I first started. So thank you very much.
Right. Michaela, will you read the resolution into the record?
I will. And I'll say also just briefly that Kathy, we will have a copy of a plaque made of this resolution once we can reopen the makerspace again safely. All right, this resolution adopted by the Board of Directors of the Aurora Public Library District, December 16th, 2020, honoring Kathleen Fennell. Whereas Kathy Fennell has served the people of Aurora with integrity and professionalism as an employee of the Aurora Public Library District for 26 years. And whereas her hard work and meticulous oversight has kept the Aurora Public Library District on time and under budget for all of those years. And whereas she has seen this library through multiple renovations, migrations, directors, and boards. And whereas her work in the planning and construction of the Santori Library was critical to its successful completion. And whereas her institutional knowledge is legend. And whereas she is a trusted colleague and careful steward of public resources. And whereas her calm and thoughtful approach is greatly appreciated by all library staff. And whereas her genuine passion for the work and purpose of the library has been of inestimable value to the community. Therefore, be it resolved that this Board of Directors expresses its sincere appreciation to Kathy for her many years of exemplary service to the library. Passed on this day of December 16th, 2020, by the unanimous vote of the Board of Directors of the Aurora Public Library District.
Thank you for reading that in. May I have a motion and a second to approve the resolution honoring Kathy Fennell?
So moved, Jeff.
Dee Basili, second.
Melinda, please call the roll.
Dee Basili,
Yes.
Jeff Butler,
Just hold on, just, if I say no, does she stay longer?
Try.
Yes, yes.
Joe Philippe,
Yes.
Melinda Riddick, yes. John Savage, absent. Eva Serrano,
Yes.
Andrew Smith.
Yes, it is my privilege and honor to approve the resolution honoring Kathy Fennell. Congratulations.
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 We miss
Congratulations.
you. We will miss you.
Thank you all.
Oh,
All right, Miriam is going to discuss the strategic pillar update.
Let me share my screen. Can everyone see?
yes.
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 Yes, I can.
So I wanted to give you all an update about the equity, diversity, and inclusion pillar. As you all remember, you passed a resolution on June 24th, so there's a lot of updates to give you all. We've established a team, accomplished some proposed names, statements, and goals, which I'll go over today, and then a couple of steps moving forward too. So for the team, several staff volunteered in August, and we assembled a team of 10. Several staff volunteered and a few more were tapped, and then we started meeting in September. This is the team as well, so if you recognize of any of them, and also give them a quick shout out for all their hard work. We've met about 5 or 6 times, and since our meetings, we have a proposed name, a proposed statement, and proposed goals. With those goals, we have developed some initial activities for those goals, so I'll go over those today. So the proposed name is Advancing Through Equity, and the proposed statement is that the library supports our community by embedding equity, diversity, and inclusion into every facet of our organization. The breakdown of those goals are goal number 1, and each kind of has sub-bullets within each goal. Our first proposed goal is that the library will establish a more inclusive and equitable working environment through reviewing recruitment and hiring processes, mentorship programs and leadership pipeline, and collecting internal data and feedback. Our proposed goal number 2 is library staff will be responsive and accountable to the diverse needs of our community, and the sub-goals from there are evaluate our community needs, develop accountability mechanisms for those community needs, bringing awareness of EDI pillar and the work that we're doing around EDI work, and improve customer service experience. Our proposed goal number 3 is the library will ensure our services and resources represent a diversity of cultures and perspectives. We've broken down those services and resources into program services and elections. And those sub-goals, some of them may include audits and revising of our policies around those services. So what's happening next? And this is where your involvement comes in play. So we're looking for your feedback to get your input to finalize those names, statement, and goals. We want to give you some time to take these proposed name, statement, and goals and bring them back to you at the January board meeting to finalize them. And then we're also looking at hiring a consultant to assess current procedures and explore future initiatives. Right now with our consultants, we're looking at our top 3 right now and finalizing some proposals from them. So we're kind of fine tuning some of those. So I'm hoping to bring more detail to you at our ad hoc meeting in January. And in addition, if APLD can have a theme song, I would say it would be Queens Don't Stop Me Now, because even though this board or this group has been meeting, there are various things that they have been accomplishing, that staff has been accomplishing. Some to kind of highlight our various programs centered around EDI. Some to highlight are the study circles that went from the beginning of October to the second week of November, and it included 138 participants with staff leading, facilitating those sessions. Another program was an evening with Dr. Abram Kendi, and that 1,000 attendees and within a partnership of 11 libraries. Other programs are our Diwali celebration, which included 100 attendees. And then another example is the LGBTQ information session that was in English and Spanish. Other opportunities that staff have been working on is professional development. They've continued to do and attend webinars. And then internally also there are common reads that departments have been discussing in their meetings. And then last but not least, a Rails group that was developed called BIPOC Library Worker that was established by our staff member, Penny, who is also sitting on our board. So there's definitely work that I've been doing as the pillar has been meeting and developing those goals. So I'm hoping that at our January meeting, we bring these goals to you, statement and names, and you have some time to look at them, review them, and then pass them on in January meeting. And then any questions?
I have one. I think it was the second goal, was the last bullet, customer service. Yes, improve customer service. How are you going to track that? Because all of these are trackable, so you can see your progress and your successes. But I'm wondering, you must have something in mind for that.
Yeah, so we're hoping that our consultants, one, can guide us on a couple of things that they would recommend, but some other things that that we can have a number behind it is our customer service experience. So for example, our signage, how well is our signage in Spanish, for example? Our gender neutral bathrooms, are they visible? Are they inclusive within their community? So some of them do have a numerical value attached to it, but of course also some of them doesn't, just based on the experience. So one thing that we're fine tuning is our CAKE model, so our customer service model, and we're just reviewing that also to make sure that it's inclusive. So there are some things that we can definitely tie a number to, but we're also looking back to the consultant to give us some guidance on that.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
I have a question. Miriam, do you have any idea what a consultant would charge? Is there
That's
like a
what
range?
That's what we're looking at right now. And I don't have a range yet. That's what we're kind of right now in the trenches of getting more information from each individual consultant. We've narrowed it down to 10, and then right now I'm in the middle of reaching out to them and then bringing it back to the team to decide what the best candidate is, essentially.
Can I jump in here?
Yeah.
Eva, part of it is what services they offer and how long the process is going to take. So,
Right.
you know, there are some consultants that work with us for a year or 18 months. There are some that just come in for a couple of months. And so that has a lot to do with it. And so I'm kind of thinking that we'll pull together our strategic plan ad hoc committee in early January. And we'll, by then we'll know a little more about the consultant and a few other things. And we'll ask you guys for your input on the name and the goals and all of this stuff, and maybe to help us put some metrics, have some ideas. So
Could you go back to the first goal, please?
Of course.
I'm sorry, goal. Oh, inclusive working environment. Okay, the next one is goal 2. staff, okay, and goal 3, I'm sorry. Services and resources, okay. Well, just something to think about. Again, we may not be ready for this, this assessment, but some organizations will also include in their panacea of diversity efforts is the vendors that an organization works with. The consultants, the different companies that we hire, the different contracts that we enter into. So maybe at some point, I'm not saying we're ready for this now, but to include the vendors that we work with and to ask ourselves how diverse are they when we contract out for different services. But again, we may not be ready, but that's just something to think about.
That's a really good point. Thank you, Eva.
Miriam, could you say a few words just when you talk about forming this team, which I know was one of the first steps, what did that process look like? I mean, was it volunteer or voluntold, as it sometimes happens? Do you feel that it's a sort of the committee is diverse in all sense of that word? I mean, obviously we have multiple locations, departments, anything you could say about that?
Yeah, so we did send out a staff email to see who would volunteer first. And we recognized that the group was not diverse. So that's kind of where we had to tap a couple folks to make sure that the representation was there. So we did take some folks from the group that volunteered. We did shoulder taps a couple of them. And we definitely kept in mind, like, is the group diverse in all aspects? Lived experiences, what branch are they coming from what level are they at? So we definitely kept that in mind. And we did reach out to folks to see if they were interested. Some respectfully said, I don't feel like this is me. So we definitely did want people who, were passionate about the work, that wanted to do this work, and of course met those diversity needs that we wanted to in all aspects.
Great, thank you.
And of course, let's not forget the disabled community, right?
Yeah.
In terms of diversity, to ensure that we're meeting the needs of different individuals within the disabled community.
Yeah, and that was something
accessibility.
Yep, that was something that was really important to us with even putting this team together. That really comes from all walks of life, not just thinking about race, thinking about abilities, thinking about language, thinking about within the LGBTQ spectrum, etc.
Right. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Miriam. It's very apparent that a lot of work has gone into this pillar. I think when we did the strategic plan, I don't think we had thought of adding pillars, and doing so was only when it was necessary. And we wanted to make sure that if we do add a pillar, that it was a very conscientious decision to do so. And I think this is excellent. And the work you and the committee have done so far is excellent. I like to see how big it is. I mean, there are a lot of team members, and that shows the strength and importance of what you guys are doing. So thank you so much. I look forward to next month, because I know you'll have honed it even more, and I know you'll have a meeting before then. And hopefully at that meeting, we can approve everything. And that way we can start allocating some resources to it and some time, and you guys can start 2021 with a pretty big job. And I'm looking forward to seeing what it's going to bring, not just today, not just tomorrow, but in the years to come. So thank you so much for everything you've done on that. All right, Michaela, last is a discussion and approval of the intergovernmental agreement, if you wouldn't mind discussing.
Okay, so I'll just start at the beginning. The intergovernmental agreement and the attached exhibits that are in your packet. Those confirm the library's obligation and our intent to levy an amount sufficient to pay our bonds from our general fund, and the city's obligation and intent to abate that amount, to not levy for it themselves, so that Aurora residents aren't taxed twice for the same debt. So the county clerks are looking for a document like this from us and from the city, because that's what gives them direction and the authority to proceed. The resolution that we're asking you to approve tonight, it does a couple of things. It approves the IGA and it gives Andrew the authority to execute the IGA, which allows us and the city to proceed without waiting for the minutes of this meeting to be approved next month. So, you know, the city wants to have this done this month as they work through their budget and levy cycle, basically. So, the resolution was Roger's workaround for us to have this signed, sealed, and delivered this evening, basically. Does anybody have any questions about the IGA? So Roger, our attorney, Roger Ritzman, worked with Rick Veenstra, the city's corporation counsel, to draft this agreement. They've been working on it for a while. You know, they go back and forth a few times. They've also spoken to Chapman and Cutler, which is the city's bond counsel, and they are satisfied with this agreement. So, any questions?
I had one, and I don't know what page it is. I've lost the piece of paper, but there was a point in there that we had to send our bond issue or our budget to the city, and then the city treasurer had to approve it.
Right.
I'm worried about that wording as far as they have to do some approval. Is that an issue or not?
You know, our Jamie Racklin looked at this and he said the same thing. He's like, that doesn't sound right. And so Roger explains that the scope of the IGA is listed in the title. It's purely for the bonds. The city is going to want to take a look at our levy and make sure that we're levying enough to cover those bonds so that they're not going to be on the hook for any of it. And Roger says that if the county clerks or if anyone else, you know, interprets this differently, we have our final order of judgment establishing us as a library district and establishing our intent to levy for our debt ourselves to rely on. Roger and Rick, I'm sorry, from the city, we're both very comfortable with the language. So that's my answer for that.
I guess my part of it is more that we don't want to take direction from the city as far as what we budget, and are we budgeting for a new van, or are we budgeting for a new whatever else? It's only about that we budgeted enough to pay for the bonds.
Correct. And Roger says that the scope of the IGA limits the scope of that oversight.
Okay. And as long as that's okay, I'm okay with it. But that was my concern.
Yeah, that's fair.
All right. I do think this is necessary. I understand that there is some speed by which this needs to be done. And so at this point, I would ask the board to approve resolution number 2020-5. May I have a motion and a second that the board approve the resolution number 2020-5, which is the resolution approving intergovernmental agreement confirming library district's obligation to pay library bonds and authorizing execution by board president.
This is Joe, so moved.
This is Dee. I'll second that.
Thank you. Melinda, please call the roll.
Dee Basili,
Yes.
Jeff Butler,
Yes.
Joe Philippek,
Yes.
Melinda Riddick, yes. John Savage, absent. Eva Serrano.
Yes.
Andrew Smith.
Yes. All right, the resolution is approved. Thank you all. At this time, there being no further business before the board, may I have a motion and a second to adjourn the meeting at 6:50 p.m.
So moved. This is Eva.
I second this, Melinda.
If I could have Melinda call the final roll.
Dee Basili,
Yes.
Jeff Butler,
Yes.
Joe Philippek,
Yes.
Melinda Riddick, yes. John Savage, absent. Eva Serrano,
Yes.
Andrew Smith.
Yes, thank you all. This meeting is adjourned. And again, congratulations, Kathy. All right, thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
That's
Yeah,
great.
Bye,
happy
thank you.
holidays. Happy
Happy
holidays to
holidays, Happy
everybody.
New Year.
Holidays.
Tom
Happy
Spicer.
Take care, Kathy. Thank you.
Yes. And we'll
Bye-bye.
see you next year.
See you guys.
Yeah,
2020 is a wrap, you guys. That's right.
Yeah.
that's right.
Thankfully.
Right. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.